Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on my channel. Today I'm going to be going over some creative effects that you could use to take your piano sounds to the next level. Now these are some things that I've just kind of picked up and learned over my years of producing. Hopefully this does help you out. There's a lot of really cool, interesting things here that hopefully you could take away from and put into your own productions. So starting things off, I do have a piano here. This one is the Stage Grand. It is a stock piano, so free, completely built into FL Studio. You can access it right here just from going to Packs, Instruments, and then Keyboard. And again, this is completely stock on its own, no effects, it's completely unprocessed. Right now, it does sound like this. That's it. It's a really nice tone. And you could totally go about using that in a song. But there's some things I like to do to my pianos to make them a little more interesting sometimes. It's very stylistic, so it depends on what you're going for. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at that now. So first off, this one isn't really going to alter it too much, but I do like to throw a gain reduction on there. This is a pretty powerful single band compressor. I'm not going to use it too much, just in moderation. This will make things a little bit louder, just so that way it's easier and more level when we go to do the other things to it. So to sort of demo it in its current state, we have something that sounds like this. That's where we're at right now. Sounds very nice, but again, this is just kind of plain piano right where it's meant to be, but there's some very cool things we could go and do to that. One of my favorite effects by far is if you open up an instance of Guitar Rig. I have the free version, this isn't something I own at this point in time, but this is actually something you could do with the free version if you just enable demo mode by going to the top menu and then file preferences and select that. There is a preset in here that gives you a really cool crystallizer effect. I often turn off a lot of the amp things, that way it's not distorted too much, and I make sure to enable it being stereo. And this just adds a really cool crystallizer effect, as I say, which now makes it sound like this. So a lot of that is coming from this one called Psych Delay. I don't want it to be that much, so I'm going to lower the mix quite a bit, make it a little more like this. Very nice sound that you could get from this. Another one I really like adding to pianos is a chorus. FL has a built-in one, I've also got an additional one that was a free plugin. But if we just use the built-in one, this will give it this sort of tone. And we could show that further if we take off that guitar rig. So you know, like really old out-of-tune pianos, you'll often have something a little more like this. This is that, but more controlled. I find this is really helpful and very common in things like trap beats, and it's a very cool additional effect you could do to something. See, that sounds very cool. We'll enable this one as well, just to kind of stack everything together. A really interesting thing I also do quite often to all of my different pianos. This is a nice experimental one. I like to go into the settings of whatever plugin it is itself. So for example, this one, the Stage Grand here. I'll hit the gear, and over here we could adjust the pitch. I like to set the range to 12, and then set this down an octave. What this does, rather than just transposing what you're playing down, it's actually re-pitching all of like the sampled keys, and you get a completely different tone. So if I go and play this now, it's going to sound a lot softer, and it's really cool. I think that sounds so nice. Especially if you play it like up high. That would be sick for some lo-fi if you just throw in some like dusty drums over that. Another thing I like to do, we're actually going to undo that pitch because it's going to be different for this type of sound. If you want to really like in-your-face sort of dance floor piano, I like to heavily multiband it. So like select the tops and we just sort of crush it pretty hard here like this and make up for it. Because what this will do, if you unsolo it now and just play it, with like really hard chords, it's going to sound like it would fit in a dance floor track. Could probably go with a little more here. make it brighter. Also helps if you throw like an OTT on there because it'll really bring up those tops. This is a very specific sound. It won't necessarily be natural, but it's cool for like dance floor stuff. So let me demonstrate this now. That one's also very nice if you use like a different initial piano, because this one, though I like it, for that sound it's not really giving you what you want. But literally if I put in like FL keys and just up the hardness or something, and get rid of some of that release, otherwise it'll be brought up, this will sound really in your face and aggressive, but like in a good way. It's like very MIDI piano, but in a way that you kind of like that. It's necessary. Another really interesting thing to do to them, say you want to use it as like more of a lead sound or a top line, I like to throw on a delay, maybe do something like this, put it on ping pong mode, and just kind of play like a lead melody where I'm sort of doubling it octave-wise and playing it really high. So for example, let me go back to that first one. Say I just had a lead line, I'll try to come up with one on the spot here. It would sound a little bit like this in context. You'll also want to put on some reverb just to really make it big. But that could sound something like this. See, that sounds really cool, and that's just with a few simple plugins that you might not even think to throw on these because they just seem like too simple, like, oh, I know what those do. But in a matter of if you use it in this way, you could get some really nice results very easily, as you can see. This is kind of easily demoing like how to use it in like a soft way, or a very in-your-face EDM way, or even, as I said there, a lead. If you layer what I just played with like a very cool like saw pluck or something, you have a really, really nice lead sound. And actually, if you've heard my song Skyline, which I put out like earlier last year, a couple of months ago now, that lead sound is actually a processed piano. I layered it with a couple of other things to make it more interesting, but that's where that came from, and it was a very easy lead sound to come up with. That's exactly how I did it. It's mainly just playing in different octaves and processing it in a very specific way. But you see, we have these different effects. If we went and played it kind of soft like we did initially, it's going to sound a lot different now because we have processed it for something a little more hype, but it's still going to sound nice. That's very cool. I think the delay really adds to it a lot. And of course, we could turn on our chorus and guitar rig from earlier and really have like a big stacked piano now. It's especially useful because that's something that, like, it's one instrument, but it's processed in a way where it's incredibly full spectrum, meaning like this doesn't really need a lot of layers to support it. It could sound very, very full on its own, which is always nice. That's something you're always going to want. If you could get away with, you know, having less to mix into something and having your instruments as they are sounding full, you're in a really good position. Another really cool technique, this one's a little bit harder to get right, but if you use something like Effector built into FL, or you could do this with really any plugin that's capable, I like to use lo-fi, it's sort of like a bit crusher, and just experiment with where you position it. This can sound really nice in a way, like that, it adds a bit of crunch. Like I say, this one's hard to get right. I wouldn't leave it like this because it's a little too obnoxious still, but in the right context, that could sound really cool, especially if actually you have it really dry. So say we get rid of even the multiband and stuff, just get rid of the chorus, the reverb stuff, have it like this. Get rid of the delay as well, like this. I don't know. It's a little crunchy, but it's a nice effect, and I do tend to go for it quite often. But those are some creative effects I add to my pianos to make them sound quite nice. If you have any other ideas and stuff like you do similar to this, let me know in the comments below, because, you know, I love piano, and I'm always looking for more techniques to add into my music, so be sure to let me know. Share anything you have in the comments. Don't forget to drop a like on this video if it did help you out, and subscribe to stay up to date with all of my latest music production content. But that is going to wrap us up. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.